Hi everyone, my name is Mulder and welcome to our Desperados III gameplay tips and tricks final video. In this Desperados III gameplay tips and tricks video, we take you through the final 3 levels of the game found in Chapter 3, along with more character combo skills you can use in the game. These final 3 levels are the Wages of Pain, which you take on with Kate, Hector, and later on with John and Isabella, a Captain of Industry, which you take on with John, Kate, Isabella, and Hector once again, and finally the last mission in the game, which has the whole gang back together, is the Old and the New. All that and more straight ahead. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for a lot more. There will be some spoilers ahead, so keep that in mind. Now without further ado, let's dive into our final Desperados 3 gameplay tips and tricks video.
Just setting the bone.
Okay, but what now?
Just lay down for a while.
Let's start things off with the Wages of Pain mission. At the start of this mission, you'll have full control of Kate and Hector. There will be a passing train that travels through the town every few minutes. This train is what you're going to need to shield your characters as they take down opponents while the train is passing by. Try to clear out as many enemies that are watching the tracks as you can and make your way through the right-hand side of the map. Don't be afraid to lure enemies away from the rest of their group and use Hector's shotgun to take out multiple opponents at once. Once again, you're going to want to go after Kate O'Hara's disguise first. Once you get Kate O'Hara's disguise, you'll have 2 choices on how to stop the train. The first is go after a wagon or go after cattle to then herd them over to the tracks. I went after the cattle, which can be located on the top right hand side of the map. You're going to want to combo Kate's disguise with Hector's whistle as many times as you possibly can. There are multiple sharpshooters in this area, but thanks to Kate O'Hara, you can distract the guards that are watching over their fellow sharpshooters, which then allows Hector to go up on a ladder and take them out quickly. Now you don't need to kill everyone to release the cattle onto the train tracks, but do take out all the enemies in the compound that are holding the cattle. You'll find between 5 to 6 enemies on the rooftops. Once again, this is where you want to use Kate to distract certain enemies while Hector takes out the rest. There was an occasion where I did have to take out a civilian in order to take out the long coat that was watching the door that I needed to get to. This is one of those rare occasions where you might have to take out a civilian in order to progress forward in the game, if you choose to go after the cattle instead of the wagon. Once you've taken your time and taken care of all enemies in the area, go over to the small little campfire where the long coat was close to, and simply throw the fire onto the top of the haystack. Once the roof catches on fire, the cattle will make a break for the train tracks, killing all enemies in their way. Once the cattle stop the train, you're off to part 2 of this mission. The second part of this mission, you need to get the entire crew on board the train. Unfortunately, all enemies that you cleared away on the train tracks will now be replaced by new enemies coming off the train. But luckily, you'll have control of John for the next part of this mission. Isabella is unfortunately knocked out for the remainder of this mission. The best way I found to take care of this mission was to have Hector and Kate run their way back to where we started at the beginning of the game, clearing the way as they go. Just take out small pockets of enemies, especially the ones on the roof of the train. Because John is here, you can combo his knife throwing ability with Kate O'Hara's distraction. There will be a long coat patrolling the area where you'll need to jump onto the train. Once you've cleared out the majority of the enemies on the roof of the train, send in Hector to take out the long coat. Don't worry too much about Isabella, just drop her body off into the bushes and take out the enemies as you go. It would be best for you to take out the one sharpshooter that is the very top of the train station. Because the sharpshooter on top of the train station has such a long view of sight, he can see you coming from quite a distance away. You will need to take him out sooner or later because you'll have to take out the long coat that's patrolling around his line of sight. It would be best to send John since he can take down enemies a lot quicker than Hector or Kate can. Once you've cleared a small path for the rest of your gang to get on board the train, that's it for the mission for now.
Where do we go from here?
I'd say we pay our friend the Marshal a visit.
All's clear!
The next mission is called Captain of Industry, in which case you're going to have to sneak into a party held by DeWitt himself and kidnap him. This mission starts off pretty interesting. The start of this mission, you'll have Kate O'Hara and John both disguised and entering the party together, while on the side of the map trying to sneak around the area will be Isabella and Hector. Because Kate O'Hara is already in a disguise because of her party outfit, she can automatically distract enemies at will. And John can also maneuver around the areas with her without having to run the alarm. He can still flick his coin for distractions or use his throwing knife provided nobody's looking at him. You will find DeWitt at the center of the party surrounded by tons of guests and guards. You'll need to thin these people out quickly. There are 2 things you need to do before you can get to him. The first is you need to set off a bunch of fireworks, and the second is you need to turn on some electricity in order to get the crowd over to watch. I recommend going after the generator first. There will be plenty of guards patrolling around the area. A good combo to use here is to have Kate O'Hara distract some guards, while Isabella hits them with a connection spell, and either have Isabella, Hector, or John finish them off. There is one catch to this mission. You cannot harm any civilians. So really take your time and be careful who you're taking down. I never had an issue running into any type of civilians getting into my way until I got to the fireworks part, but we'll get to there in just a second. The toughest part of getting to the generator is that you'll find 2 long coats patrolling around the garden. The way I conquered this part is I had the 2 long coats connected with the connection spell by Isabella, while slowly taking out the sharpshooters that were surrounding the area before the long coats came around to patrol. There will be one sharpshooter watching the entire garden, but simply send Kate O'Hara to distract him, and you'll be able to take out the rest of the enemies in no time. There will be an environmental hazard up above where there will be a long coat next to a giant statue. Simply send Hector up there to push the statue down and you'll drop him as well. You do owe it it to yourself to try to take out as many enemies in the garden as possible. You're going to want to move around this area pretty quickly after you're done. Once all enemies are taken care of, send Kate O'Hara and John to where the fireworks are. You are unfortunately going to have to send Hector and Isabella to go the long way. The way that I took Isabella and Hector was to go through the stables. It is best to clear out the stables of all enemies as you pass through it. The reason why is that you're going to want to escape in this direction once you have DeVitt. Once all enemies in the area are taken care of, and make your way towards the fireworks. Because of the area approach that I went this way, unfortunately I wasn't able to use Hector for the remainder part of this mission. The first thing you're going to want to do is take care of the longcoat that's patrolling around the fireworks. The simple way to do this is to take out the enemies that are conquered away in this small little corner of the map. Once you blow out the torch, it will get the longcoat's attention, in which case he'll go over to investigate. There will be a guard with his back facing towards the lantern. Simply hit him and the longcoat with the connection spell. Have either John or Kate take out the weak enemy, and then have Isabella take down the longcoat once he's in range. Once that's done, send Kate O'Hara over to the barracks to distract some of the guards. You're going to want to use Isabella to take out all the enemies that are on top of the roof. Once all enemies are down, this next part is completely up to you. What I did this part of the mission is that I used Isabella's mind control ability on one of the guests. Because this was a female guest, I clearly got her out of the area, which then allowed Kate O'Hara to distract the male guest. Once the male guest was distracted, I took out the final guard that was guarding the fireworks. Once all that's done, set off the fireworks and you're ready to move on to the next part of the mission. Now the center of the party is completely emptied out of guests. All that's left are a few servants, and finally the guards. The biggest thing you're going to want to do at this part is that you want to get your whole team together as best you can. Because DeVitt is now on guard, Kate O'Hara and John's disguise won't work on him. But there is one little thing you can do. Because DeVitt is talking to 3 guards, simply send Kate O'Hara to talk to one of those guards and distract him, in which case the entire group, including DeVitt, will be distracted by her. For whatever reason, DeVitt will not recognize Kate O'Hara when you try to talk to one of his guards, but he will be hypnotized by her beauty along with the others. This is then your opportunity to try to take out as many guards on the rooftops as you can. You want to try to clear a path between the rooftop that leads towards the stables and then getting DeVitt. Now if you do have one mind control spell left by Isabella, you should be able to get DeVitt up to the rooftop without a problem. But in my case, I unfortunately ran out of mind control spells. So what I did next is that I simply sent Isabella onto the rooftops and got the jump on as many guards as I could. I had to keep using Kate O'Hara to distract the guards that were talking to DeVitt in order to get their view of vision to follow wherever I wanted them to look. Once you've taken out as many enemies on the rooftops, then send in Hector to take out the longcoats. You will have to break Kate O'Hara off talking to the guards and then talking to some servants if you want to get all the longcoats in the area. Once the rooftops have been cleared and all the longcoats are taken care of, now's your chance to get DeVitt. I would simply have Kate O'Hara behind DeVitt and get ready to knock him out. You do need him alive. Use the connection spell into the guards, have John use his throwing knife, and have Isabella move in for the final kill. And you should be able to take out all 3 guards watching over DeVitt in no time. Once all enemies are taken care of, grab DeVitt and make your way towards the stables. Because you cleared out all enemies in the stables earlier, your escape should be easy and done by the time you get to this point. And there you have it, you're done and moving on to the final mission of this game.
Alright, everybody. Let's get out of here.
And the final mission of this game is the old and the new, in which case the entire gang is here. This is the mission where you finally take down Frank. But in order to do this, you have to clear a path up to the church where this whole thing started. You have 2 pathways to take, the left or the right. I chose to go through the left-hand side of the map, although this was a challenging path to go. At the start of the game, your team will be split off. Hector, Kate, and John will be on the left-hand side, while Doc and Isabella will be on the right. Clear out all enemies in the starting areas where your characters begin at the game. Once all enemies in the area are taken care of, make your way down to the bottom of the canyon to where you can get Kate O'Hara's disguise. I highly recommend that you at least save one of Doc's knockout gas at the very end of the game. You're gonna need it. Also try to save all of Isabella's mind control spells until you get closer to the church. Once you got Kate O'Hara's disguise, now choose which direction you want to go. I chose to go to the far left-hand side of the map. Because this area is mostly dominated by male henchmen, it was quite easy for Kate O'Hara's disguise to fool enemies and allowed me to get around the area, taking them down one at a time. There aren't a lot of environmental hazards in the area, and there are quite a few longcoats. You're going to want to take your time on this final mission. Use Kate O'Hara's disguise to lure away guards or simply get their attention facing a different direction. Use Doc to take out any sharpshooters in the area, while using Hector to whistle to get enemies to come up to his area to where he can then use his bear trap. This area is infested with henchmen, so do take your time and save every single step of the way. There is one environmental hazard on the far left-hand side where, if you time it just right, you'll be able to take out a longcoat and his 2 guards with him. This will make your pathway to the final part of this area a lot easier. Once you get to the tail end of the left-hand side of the map, you're going to find a long pathway leading up to the church. This area is quite challenging to get through. You'll have to take out 5 longcoats before you get to the entrance of the church, along with regular enemies that are patrolling around next to them. There will be 2 longcoats watching the long pathway leading up to the church, along with 1 patrolling sharpshooter. What I chose to do here was I decided to use Kate O'Hara's knockout perfume to distract the enemy longcoat while I moved the rest of my team around him. The reason why I chose to do this was because every time I tried to take out this longcoat, the other one far off in the distance would see me doing it. You're better off just skipping the longcoat that's guarding the entrance entrance to the pathway. Once you pass the first long coat, now is your time to take out the rest of the enemies in your way. The way I chose to do this was I used Isabella's connection spell along with her mind control spell. It's your choice if you want to use up all your mind control spells. I do recommend if you can, try to save at least one for the next part of this mission. Because it's such a narrow pathway, it's very easy for enemies to spot you, and you only have John and Isabella who can climb up the vines near the area. Simply use Isabella's connection spell on the long coats along with weaker enemies. Then use a mind control spell either on a connected weak enemy and try to see if you can take out more enemies getting spotted. Best case scenario is that you were able to shoot one enemy dead, while the one you had under control was shot by another enemy, in which case both him and the long coat took a lot of damage. You're really going to have to let the enemies fight amongst themselves. Another thing to bear in mind is that try to have Doc take out the one sharpshooter that's up on top of the tower that can see throughout the entire area. Once Isabella along with Hector have cleared out the long coats, now's your time to make your way to the final part of this mission, in which case this is truly going to test your patience and your skill. In the final part of this mission, John will take on Frank alone. Unfortunately, Frank will bring in a bunch of his lieutenants, in which case they will encircle John. John will be taken out of your control for the remainder of this mission. He will be solely locked on to Frank. You unfortunately won't be able to use your slowdown ability because if you do and activate any skills, John will automatically fire his pistol at Frank. The purpose of the last part of this mission is to get the remaining group of your team around John and try to help him out and take out the enemy lieutenants that Frank's brought with him. You're going to want to either knock out or kill all the enemy lieutenants surrounding John and Frank before John fires his pistol. The best way I was able to do this is I sent Kate O'Hara in by herself first, and hid her behind the bushes closest to Frank. Because this part of the mission is so sensitive, you have to be careful every step of the way. Even using Doc's sniper pistol on an enemy that is out of everyone's line of sight, just the sound of the gun itself will automatically kick in the event. In which case, if you don't have your guys lined up, John will die and you'll fail the mission. Get Kate O'Hara over to the bushes closest to Frank and have her use her perfume on him. The reason why you want to do this is because Frank has a long range of sight. His line of sight reaches all the way to the two guards watching the front door. However, once he's disoriented by the perfume from Kate, you'll be able to move in your characters such as Hector to kill out the two guards. Have the two guards connected thanks to Isabella's connection spell and have Hector take them both out. You want Hector to grab these two guards immediately and hide them in the bushes before Frank recovers. You want to take out the 4 enemies closest to the front door that are patrolling around the area. Once those 4 are dead, don't worry about taking out any more enemies around the church. Now is the time to move your characters into position to where they can take out the enemies that are surrounding both John and Frank. This is the setup that I had. I had Hector on the right hand side, in which case he could use his sawed-off shotgun to take out 3 enemies at once. I then had Isabella use her connection spell on the 2 enemies closest to the far left hand side where Kate O'Hara is, in which case Kate O'Hara was going to use her small pistol to take them both out at the same time. Now comes in Doc, which is going to be the most important part of this entire strategy. As I said earlier, make sure Doc has saved at least one of his knockout gases. You can only use this on the 2 enemy lieutenants that are grouped up on the top left hand side of the circle. Have all your other abilities except for Doc set into showdown. Once Doc throws out his knockout gas, have Doc immediately pick off the final enemy, which should be on the top right hand corner. Once you have Doc selected with his sniper pistol on this enemy and he's throwing his knockout gas, have everyone activate their ability at the same time. Everything should go according to plan, in which case all the enemies except for 2 will be dead and the other 2 will just simply be knocked out, which is perfectly fine because that will count and help you finish the final part of this mission. You'll be treated to the final cutscene of Frank and John, and that's it. You've officially beaten Desperados 3. Thank you so much for watching our Desperados 3 gameplay tips and tricks series, and I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe for a lot more. We do gameplay tips and tricks on your favorite games such as Maneater, Dragon Age Inquisition, The Witcher 3, Doom Eternal, Bleeding Edge, and a lot more, including brand new games that are coming out for the remainder of this year. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and also on Instagram. Once again, thank you so much for watching our Desperados 3 tips and tricks video, and I'll see you all very soon.
That's right. Make it go.